Hello again. We have become so accustomed to various bizarre things in Britain over the years that we sometimes forget just how weird some of them are. Take the case of what was once the capital of England and is these days the capital of the United Kingdom. This is, of course, London. For 1,000 years or so, London was an English city. That is to say, it was a city in England, and the vast majority of the people living in that city were English. True, there were Frenchmen and Irish people, some Scots, and so on, but almost all the people in the English capital were English. Forgive me if all this sounds very obvious. London was an English city because the overwhelming majority of citizens were English. According to the 2021 census, which is of course hopelessly outdated now, only 36.8% of people living in London are white British. Millions of immigrants have entered this country since the 2021 census was taken 4 years ago, and almost all of them now live in London. We may therefore reasonably assume that the proportion of English people in London has now fallen below a third. That being so, with the English being such a minority in the city, I think it fair to say that London is no longer an English city. I don't know what you would describe it as these days. A global city, perhaps? An international city? What it most certainly is not is English. This then is what I meant by saying that we have come to take certain extraordinary things for granted. Cast your mind back a few years and imagine that in the 1970s or 80s you had suggested that if we didn't get a grip on immigration, then we would end up being a minority in our own capital. It would have sounded like the ravings of a crackpot racist. The idea would have been seen as absolutely demented. And yet, here we are. Not only have the English been driven out of their own capital city, until only between a quarter and a third of the population remain English, it is considered very suspect even to notice this, let alone remark upon it. I have not the slightest doubt that some comments on this video will be critical of me for mentioning this demographic change. I know people who pretend that they haven't noticed that London is no longer English, and if it's pointed out to them, they will say something along the lines of, well, London has always been a city of immigrants. It's about the Huguenots from France. Progressive people feel that anybody drawing attention to startling demographic changes in the country must be up to no good. It is thought to be polite not to draw attention to anything like this and pretend that you are so modern and up-to-date and global that you simply do not see your own city being deserted by its citizens, who are then replaced by a mixed bag of folk from Africa and Asia. The process is, of course, irreversible. Those who half believe that times will change at some point in the future and that they will regain their capital city and see it become English again are deluding themselves. When a city is gone, then that's it, I'm afraid. With every passing year, the percentage of English people in London will decrease, and there is not the slightest possibility of that process suddenly being thrown into reverse. Other English cities are now in the early stages of this same inexorable collapse of English majority rule. The English are dispersing into the countryside, but once the cities are full, foreigners, then the occupation of small towns and even villages will begin. It has already begun in some parts of the country. The unpalatable fact is that England is finished.